Hey, this is Notser, and it's the Tier 8 Japanese destroyer Fubuki. It has 6 main guns, 9 torpedoes, 26 AA guns, a surface detection of 6.1 kilometers, top speed 35.8 knots, total health 12,600. For my modules, reduced crit chance on torpedo tubes and propulsion, faster torpedo aim, faster rudder shift, and concealment. For my commander, situational awareness, basic firing training, faster turret traverse, lower cooldown on torpedoes, superintendent, and last stand. We are on the map north. I spawned on the west side and I'm headed for A. The observant of you would notice that I'm using the short-range, faster torpedoes. I'm interested to see if it makes a positive or negative impact on my gameplay. I was one of those minikaze captains that chose the short-range, faster torpedoes. The enemy is attempting to capture A as I speak. Has to be a destroyer. They're the only one that's fast enough to get there. They probably use speed boost, which I did not. And I'm detected immediately. This ship has better detection than I do. It's a Fletcher, Tier 9, very scary. They have way better rate of fire. In a one-on-one, they're going to take me down. So I got to be very careful. I'm going to try and land most of my rounds center mass. We do almost 3k to this guy, and he's doing a ton to us. Trying to angle, he takes out steering, but luckily we have last stand. He also loses propulsion. Looks like he has last stand. So both of us aren't really feeling the hurt of module damage. He uses smoke and he disappears. I'm going to take a shot from the enemy battleship, but it does not land anywhere near my ship. So overall, the first encounter with a Fletcher worked out in my favor. We delayed his capture of A, forced him to use smoke, and in doing so, he will be more susceptible to later engagements. We're going to try a narrow spread that fills up the entire smoke area. And if he's staying in the smoke, he's going to have to deal with it. If he's not, then we know he's not in that area. We choose to use damage control because why not? Even with last stand, you do lose a little bit of your control for the module that's knocked out. And we're out of danger. There's no way that the Fletcher could ambush us. In this situation, we have 2 friendly cruisers and a battleship right behind us. The enemy has to be very careful not to get overzealous. And it's been a while since I've been in the Fubuki. The torpedoes, they're not going to hit anything in that smoke. Looks like the enemy destroyer moved off. So we don't have to really worry about that particular enemy. We can focus on the battleships in the background. They have what looks like torpedoes near them. I don't know if the carrier is somewhere north of their position or if he's trying to send it out to go against the edge of the map and then ambush one of my friendly battleships. At this point, I wanted to capture A. I knew that the enemy destroyer had left the area. It looks like the last steed of a fighter was able to spot the enemy destroyer. He's definitely nowhere near A. Unfortunately, those torpedo bombers show up. They're too close. I use my smoke to hide from them and the enemy. The friendly cruisers are spotting this battleship, so I do not need to spot the ship. I can set up a nice clean torpedo strike on that ship. I have been starting to send out my torpedoes at a target, like this battleship for instance, and obviously most of them are going at the indicator a little bit behind also, and if the enemy is trying to engage my ship, they are less interested in paying attention to the threat that is coming towards their ship. I was in a scenario where the enemy was moving off from the position of my torpedoes, and I had the chance to pull him back towards it with his attention on my vessel. It worked out perfectly, a complete bait of the enemy, and he ended up showing his side right before he detected the torpedoes. At that point, he was committed and he couldn't avoid the torpedoes that destroyed him from 100 to 0. I'm kind of interested to see if I can command an enemy to willfully give up his ship by sailing through the path of a torpedo strike. This Tirpitz just wasn't paying attention. 4 torpedoes make contact with the enemy ship. We cause flooding. He's going to have to use damage control if he wants to survive, which he does. So now he's susceptible to fire and flood from here on out. Kill would have been nice, but 80% damage is just fine. Torpedoes are back up. We can look for another target to ambush. And that's pretty much what I try to do this entire game. Use my torpedoes to ambush them If I can, I will try and goat them into engaging my ship, and in doing so, they will inevitably die to a torpedo strike that they are not prepared to deal with. He takes a torpedo. Hopefully the torpedo causes flooding. He is taking damage, yes. He does have a dot on his ship, so he's gonna die. We know he used damage control on our floods, and is he gonna die to the dot? Looks like he died to possibly gunfire, but that's awesome. We're able to take out a Tirpitz at the beginning of the match. It looks like an enemy is capturing B. Most likely it's that destroyer. That's what I inferred. I did not see visual contact of the enemy. I've got to deal with the enemy New Orleans. The New Orleans is alright, and yes, there's an enemy destroyer at B trying to capture it. The New Orleans is alright. He could definitely destroy me if he sees me, but I'm not too afraid of him detecting my ship. The New Orleans knows that there's an enemy destroyer attempting to capture A, but he has no interest in moving forward. I have a potential torpedo attack. Just need to make sure that there's no aircraft that could potentially spot the torpedoes before they make contact with the enemy. So as you level up your destroyer, you have noticed that you've been less and less effective against the enemy. Part of that is they're getting better at avoiding and predicting torpedoes. The other part of it is the fighter or scout plane that might be hovering overhead, a cruiser or a battleship. You need to make sure that it's hovering away from the path of your torpedoes so it can't give them an early warning that a torpedo strike is incoming. I generally wait until I've seen the aircraft fly close, and then it's going to be a long time before it flies around that same area again. You can use that to your advantage. And we've captured A. Looks like we stopped the enemy destroyer from capturing B, and he moved off. I don't see his corpse anywhere near B, so that's a little troubling. And our torpedoes look like they're going to be pretty good. We only need a couple torpedoes to make contact. These are big torpedoes designed to take out battleships. 1, 2, 3 torpedoes, taking out the enemy New Orleans. And just like that, we've done a ton of torpedo damage. We really haven't done anything special to have that success with our torpedoes. The New Orleans really wasn't trying to avoid those torpedoes. He was oblivious to the threat at his ship, and clearly he suffered for that failure. Now, as a Japanese or a US destroyer, this is a clear and easy tactic that you can make use of. But as a Soviet destroyer, it's a little bit different. I look forward to exploring that particular line with everyone. So we're moving forward. Captured A, we've got our whole team behind us. Looks like someone is trying to capture C. The enemy New Orleans aircraft flies overhead. It was obviously out of the way and not detecting the torpedoes for the New Orleans. The enemy Iowa in front of me has at least 2 fires on his ship. He's taking fire from everyone who's following me. There's another enemy Iowa in the area, but he has yet to engage. Now, I'm trying to look for a potential torpedo target. Since my torpedoes are back up, of course, in this position, I don't have a good attack path. Everyone's moving away. It's very difficult whenever you're going after a target to try and hit them if they're moving away with your torpedoes. So you need to consider that, of course. This enemy Iowa is headed straight for what looks like the area, and unfortunately, the enemy New Orleans aircraft spots our position. So now, this Iowa sees exactly where we are. He fires, and it looks like he's fired on my position, so we're going to adjust our rudder. Oh, thankfully I'm able to maneuver outside of the rounds coming in. And he knows I'm here, so he's going to change. You can see his guns are pointing directly where I was. He takes an HE, he's set on fire, and we let him see us. And he fires again. We pop smoke. We're going to take a little damage. Oh, actually, he overshot. Secondary hit us. Secondary. Now, we are completely stealth. We're sitting in the smoke, but we want to bring our torpedoes to bear. Now he knows we're here. He's going to maneuver outside of the torpedoes. He is allowing the fire to burn. Perhaps he is on cooldown with his damage control. And we're just going to send our torpedoes out. They're fast. It's a short range. He's right at the border of the detectability of the ship. A couple 100 meters. And he's harshly avoiding these torpedoes. He knows they're coming. You can see how close he is to the island. But in doing so, he is less able to engage the friendlies. His main battery is facing towards the opposite end of the 4 ships that are pushing up behind me, he is susceptible to fire and he cannot dish the fire out. We are able to set him on fire. I don't know if he put it out with damage control, but he's not putting it out now. So as long as we are in this position, we're going to fire on these enemies. And the torpedoes that we set out for the Iowa, and they were definitely for the Iowa, are going in a path that the Ibuki is apparently sailing right through, and he is actually running into my Iowa torpedoes. And if we only need 1 to land, remember they're for battleships? Yes, we get the Ibuki with a single torpedo. Remember, these are big torpedoes. They do like 14,000 points of damage. They're designed to be able to take out a battleship if you land all of them. I don't need to land 9 torpedoes to take out a cruiser. He sent out torpedoes, harmlessly going to pass by me and the ally. We still have these 2 Iowas in the area, but they're not interested in staying, clearly. They want to get the hell out of here. And we're going to harass them. We're going to hunt them down and destroy them, if we can. They're outside of our range. They got aircraft in the vicinity. We need to get much closer. We don't have that much speed on them. We only have probably 7-8 knots-ish on the Iowas. They're really fast US battleships, so we're not going to gain ground that quickly. Our friends are firing on their position. They're all pretty healthy except for the friendly turpets, but I can't really do anything for the turpets right now. Everything's on cooldown. Smoke, boost, and we have total control at this point. There is an enemy destroyer, and I love fighting other destroyers. I feel like I have a real advantage with my gun accuracy, even if I'm going up against a US destroyer. Now, maybe I won't enjoy fighting Soviet destroyers. The enemy Shimakaze, we got to deal with that. Tier 10 Japanese destroyer, really powerful. He's very low, and he is in gun range, but we need to get a little bit closer, in my opinion. We need to guarantee this kill. He cannot be allowed to escape. Now, the aircraft were spotting him, and they're moving off. In this scenario, with less than 90 points left in the game, I would keep your aircraft in the area to scout an enemy destroyer. He shows back up. We actually have better detectability than he does by a couple 100 meters. Unfortunately, he moves in and detects us, so we gotta go. We gotta go. We can't hold it any longer. So we fire on his position. We do minimal damage. He turns right into our rounds, and we take him out. The enemy Iowa fires on our position. We take superficial damage. This is the new patch. You can barely tell, but the gun is knocked out. They changed it to black instead of bright red. So my front main gun is completely knocked out, and there's not enough time. The game's over. So overall, this was an awesome torpedo fest, and I don't know if the shorter range, faster torpedoes were the reason for success, but I certainly put myself in a position to find success. 3 kills, a ton of XP, base XP 2,748, probably because of the targets I actually defeated. We did around 110,000 points of damage. 8 torpedoes making contact with the enemy will definitely help that. I hope you enjoyed the Fubuki. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.